G'day ladies and germs, Conor here from C-Dubs Media, back with another video. Today I'm looking at a $3,000 lens on a $1,000 camera, and does it really make a difference? Some things are important for me to learn rather than just be told. And so when I put this lens on this little body, I was immediately taken back by the weight. I mean, when I'm doing street photography, I like to just scoot around, be nimble, and just fire shots off willy-nilly. But this lens weighs in at like 800 and something grams. It's nearly 1 kilo just in the lens. And then you got this 300 gram body attached to the end of it. It's quite off balance. It's quite heavy, especially if you're going for 8 hours. And that was me, 8 hours, big heavy lens. $3,000, big heavy lens. So the weight is real. Now, for other situations, that's not going to be a problem. Like right now, I'm filming on the Canon R50 with a $3,000 lens. More than that, $3,500 lens. And it's on a tripod. The weight doesn't matter. I am not bothered in any way. By the way, this is 1080p, 25 frames per second, f2.8. So you get a little bit of background blur there. And ISO 100. Looks pretty good, I reckon, for the Canon R50 on a $3,500 lens. And you get the same sort of image in 4K. So for video, maybe the weight isn't such a big deal. But for walking around doing street photography, it was a huge deal. It was way too heavy. But it was still nice to have on the camera. And I think another thing people forget about, this is like hideability when you're cruising the streets is important. And you can't hide with a lens 3 times the size of your actual camera body. So I did notice that, and I did notice that other people noticed me quicker when I was holding this up.
What are you taking photos of?
Street photography, mate.
Oh, yeah?
People walking around. Yeah.
You want a tripod? I've got a brand new tripod. There's case, it's got a plastic.
I've got a couple.
Have you?
Yeah.
Don't use them?
Oh, I do use them, but not when I'm walking around. Yeah. Thanks, though. Sometimes I was a bit sneaky, but most of the time it was a dead giveaway, and they change their demeanour when they see the big lens. Now I think something that I did notice, though, compared to like a kit lens, the f-stop is real. I mean, getting, say, to the kit lens of the R50, it's like f4, and this is f2.8. So you're getting 2 extra stops of light just by adjusting your aperture. Yeah, I mean, never mind ISO or anything else, but 2 stops of light, it's noticeable. And I was taking images that I couldn't have taken, especially once the sun went down. I couldn't have taken some of these images with the kit lens. It would have been too dark. Or I could have taken the photos, but the ISO would have been cranked. So it's totally different settings, and you end up with a different photo. So that helped an awful lot to get some pretty cool looking images. Is it $3,000? Is 2 stops of light worth $3,000? Probably not by itself. And the other one is bokeh, or there's 2 here, bokeh and your blades. There's 9 blades in the expensive lens compared to, say, 7 in a kit lens. And that does give you nicer bokeh balls, a bit smoother and a bit more rounder, as opposed to, say, octagon sort of shaped bokeh balls or something like that. So, but you know, you might like the more jagged octagon looking bokeh balls, whereas on the Canon, they're going to be rounder and smoother looking, which I'm generally more favored, but maybe that's a personal preference. Now, another point where it is worth noting is that this lens has built-in stabilization, and you have a switch for it, an on-off switch. You don't get that in the kit lens, so that's important as well for doing long exposure photography or longish. I mean, you're talking like maybe a second you can get with the R50 and this lens because of the stabilization, whereas with the kit lens you just get a little bit less stabilization in conjunction with the body. It is a tick for the more expensive lens. Something else that I found nice to have was weather sealing. I mean, just having it in the lens gives you a little bit more comfort in your wet weather shooting. Now, I know the body isn't sealed on the Canon R50, but having the lens means that it sort of is in a little bit of a way, and that's nice as well. You're not going to get any water going in through the lenses or the elements or anything on the lens. It's all going to go in through the camera if you're going to get anything wet. So I did like that as well. It just adds something extra as well. Now, I think it's important to realize if I throw in some photos in here that are shot on the kit lens, I actually don't really think you would realize the difference in this style of photography. Definitely if I was doing professional portrait shots, you would be able to tell. Or if I'm doing sports, I think you would be able to tell. But for just general street photography or general sort of travel and run and gun, shooting from the hip type of photography, it's really hard to tell. I mean, a good photo is not determined by the lens. A good photo is determined by the artist seeing the moment and capturing it with their camera. And not all of us have that ability to do that. So we look to the gear to make us feel like we're going to be able to do it at some point. So that's important to recognize that as well. Like the camera and the lens are just the tool that you use. And you can give like a hammer and nails and timber to someone and they cannot build a house. But you can give those same tools to someone else and they can build something with it. So photography is the same. If you haven't got the ability to do it, then you're probably not going to get good photos with this lens or the cheap one. Let me go back to my notes, just see if I've forgotten anything. Oh, ultrasonic zoom is important as well. So you really can't hear the zoom in this lens when you're shooting video, which is good. I mean, you cannot hear the zoom hunting back and forth as I'm doing this and filming this video. You just can't hear it, but you could potentially hear it on the cheaper lenses. It's got that stepping motor in the cheaper one, where this is the ultrasonic, so that's important as well. I guess I'm leaning towards overall for video, the bigger lens is better. But for photography, travel, street, day to day, the kit lens might be just fine, especially for someone on an R50. You know, the R50 shooter could potentially just be someone who's just starting out. And I think it's important to remember what I was just saying, that your art is your art. Your art isn't your gear. So let me think. I've talked about bokeh, f-stop, stabilization, weight, price, hideability or being nimble and sneaking around doing street photography, ultrasonic zoom, weather sealing, 9 blades for the bokeh, and then there's also the technical stuff of like all the elements inside a lens. And so inside this lens, there are 16 elements. That's 16 pieces of glass that bend the light to give you this image. In the kit lens, there are 7. So a lot more craftsmanship and what would you call it? A technical ability has been put into this lens. Whereas on the cheaper one, it's very plastic, it's very light, there's not a lot of glass in it. It's basically just so you can get the photo. Whereas this one is much nicer, much more craftsmanship. It's made with magnesium alloy rather than plastic. It's just got so much more going for it on a technical level. And just to point out, this is now becomes a 24 to 56mm lens when it's on the R50 because of the crop sensor situation. Where if it was full frame, it would be a true 15 to 35. But it's not. It is 24 to 56. So right now, I think I'm at 18mm. Let me just do a bit of zooming. That is 15, so 24. And this is 56mm. Oh, that looks pretty good, hey? My hand's out of focus. Ooh. And that's the bokeh you get with f2.8. So I think it's important to always go back to the fact that you do get what you pay for, but it is not going to make you a better photographer, a better videographer, or anything like that. For most of us, we're just average people with a camera and a lens. So I'll let you decide whether you want to invest in the glass. I did because I wanted to, and I thought it would make me better and all that sort of shit. And I'm glad I did. I love having it, but it's not going to make my photos any better. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you appreciated this video. I made it just for fun because I don't really give a fuck anymore about the views and the likes and all that sort of shit. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.